Today on Good News Daily, we are showing you which 14 animated films were better than that year's Best Picture Oscar winner as voted on by you, the public.
Please like and subscribe, and hit the bell notification, so you'll know every time I upload a new video.
Even though live-action films hit theaters first, it didn't take long for animated films to make their debut and give their more realistic forebears a run for their money. From the beginning, studios have consistently released Oscar-worthy animated films, despite the fact no animated movie has ever won an Academy Award for Best Picture. The top animated movies of all time stack up favorably with the best live-action films ever, but they never get the same amount of love come awards season. Up is an animated movie that makes you bawl, but that year's Oscar for Best Picture went to a movie few people saw. Why is that? Whether it's because animated films had difficulty shaking the For Kids Association or because critics just aren't paying attention to more niche animation genres, it's clear animated films have been snubbed on a few occasions. It's time to shed light on the animated films that deserve to win an Oscar for Best Picture the year they were released. Released in the midst of World War II, Mrs. Miniver is the rare film about a concurrent war. The film wanted to showcase how resilient the British were during World War II, but some of the largest battles of the war hadn't even happened yet, making the movie feel a little quaint through today's lens. On the other hand, Bambi is a fantastical escape from the horrors of World War II. The movie would likely have felt like a relief during a time of such brutality, even though it still manages to deal with adult themes like the passing of a parent and the struggle to survive. Up is one of the greatest films of all time, animated or not. Unlike most animated films, Up was actually nominated for Best Picture before ultimately losing to the Hurt Ocker. Films are supposed to inspire viewers to use their imagination, and there are few films more imaginative than Up. Unlike most movies aimed at kids, Up keeps audiences guessing as to what will happen next. Every scene offers a new surprise, and that's all without mentioning the powerful, wordless montage that opens the film and leaves adults sprawling. The Hurt Ocker also tells a remarkable story, but the idea that war destroys has been covered ad nauseum. The film also received some flack for its inaccurate portrayal of how explosives experts work. Up, on the other hand, is wonderfully unique. The Shape of Water is a beautiful yet bizarre movie. Though the film is undeniably interesting, some critics have noted its lack of depth. By contrast, Coco is a fun, powerful film that explores the importance of forgiveness and preserving the memory of loved ones who have passed on. In addition, Coco explores a facet of Mexican culture that many Americans may not know much about, sparking their imagination while providing a cultural lesson. Toy Story is the film that started it all. The first fully computer-generated feature film, Toy Story kicked off Pixar's run of critically acclaimed, box-office-dominating animated films. Toy Story's central premise of toys being alive is so well told, it still stands as one of the greatest movies ever created. Braveheart hasn't aged nearly as well. The film itself is solid, but the antics of director and star Mel Gibson have made the film less palatable and harder to support, and the historical revisionism is a bit much for anybody who was hoping it would be accurate. It just can't compete with Toy Story's lasting power and relevance. At their cores, both WALL-E and Slumdog Millionaire are love stories. They both follow plucky underdog characters who fall for someone way out of their league. The reason WALL-E is better, and more significant, though, is because of just how powerful it is. Few films can use silence and some bleeps and bloops to convey such incredible emotion. Slumdog Millionaire is enjoyable and uplifting, but it has received its fair share of criticism. Notably, some point to the problems associated with a Western director telling a quintessentially Indian tale. WALL-E is in another class altogether. It's a story about sacrifice and love and heroism, but it's all done with robots that basically can't speak. The end sequence alone deserves an Oscar nomination for its emotional resonance, without including so much as a single coherent word. The Incredibles is one of the greatest superhero films ever made. Before Marvel started dominating the box office, The Incredibles established and perfected the formula that would make the superhero film one of the most popular genres of the 2010s. It's a nigh-perfect film, full of all the humor and action we've come to expect from the genre, even though it predates the Marvel Cinematic Universe by a solid 4 years. Million Dollar Baby, by contrast, is yet another well-made boxing film in the tradition of other great boxing films like Rocky and Raging Bull. Although a female lead adds a new twist to the genre, the classic boxing film formula had been well established long before Hilary Swank showed up. $1 Million Baby just isn't nearly as fresh as The Incredibles. The Iron Giant tells the compelling story of a friendship between a boy and a robot. American Beauty centers around the white, middle-class man who is tired of his 9-to-5 and wants to get with his daughter's underage friend. As interesting as American Beauty may be, it's a stretch to say a majority of audiences can identify with any of the film's characters on a deep level. The Iron Giant, by contrast, does a fantastic job exploring universal themes and eliciting real emotion in a way that Kevin Spacey's character doesn't, especially given the accusations against the actor. It may not seem like it on the surface, but Zootopia and Moonlight deal with surprisingly similar themes. Both films confront the issues of racism and otherness, though Zootopia does so in a way that's infinitely more accessible and understandable, considering it's a children's film. Zootopia takes a complicated, nuanced subject and helps break it down in a way that kids can understand. Many of the adults watching Moonlight have already experienced institutionalized racism and homophobia, but Zootopia may help the next generation take those first, crucial steps towards understanding each other better. That's pretty powerful. Spirited Away is widely considered one of the greatest films of all time, animated or otherwise. It's imaginative and strange, and it resonated so strongly with Japanese audiences that it surpassed Titanic as Japan's highest-grossing film of all time. Chicago, though certainly a great musical, has been mostly forgotten by audiences, and failed to make any significant cultural impact, especially in comparison to Spirited Away. Boasting one of the most memorable soundtracks ever, The Lion King remains a high-water mark for Disney animated films. This compelling anthropomorphic reimagination of Shakespeare's Hamlet feels just as fresh and fun today as it did in 1994. Forrest Gump, on the other hand, has been re-evaluated several times over the years, and many reviewers have become uncomfortable with the way it handles serious topics. Gump seems to mock its lead character's mental deficits and sets up a highly unrealistic world in which everything works out in the end, as long as you don't think about it too hard. In a head-to-head comparison, The Lion King is the clear winner. Unforgiven is a powerful Western that largely forgoes the glossy sheen applied to many Western films. It succeeds in its aims to create a darker, more realistic portrayal of the American West, but in many ways, it's still just another Western film. There have been thousands and thousands of films like it, even if Unforgiven offers a slightly different take. Aladdin, on the other hand, is a fun, unpredictable adventure made during the peak of classic Disney animation. It features an incredible performance from the late Robin Williams that is worth the cost of an iTunes rental on its own. Though Argo is an enjoyable, if historically dubious, film, it really can't compete with Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph remains one of the only movies about video games that adults can enjoy. It's funny and wild, and there's never been anything like it. Argo, on the other hand, is a historical production that skips on the history to beef up the drama. It's engaging, but it's hardly unique. It's hard enough for anybody to care about a film that came out 5 years ago, much less one that was first released over 80 years ago. However, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs remains a family classic. It's just as good today as it was when Disney debuted the film in 1937, and it's a fantastic introduction to the studio's endless vault of animated films. You Can't Take It With You is mostly unknown to anybody besides film buffs. Even among Frank Capra films, it has been immensely overshadowed by It's a Wonderful Life. Though You Can't Take It With You is a delightful film, there's just no comparing it with the monolithic Snow White. Sorry Space Jam fans, but Who Framed Roger Rabbit remains the best blend of traditional animation and live action ever created. On top of its technical wizardry, Roger Rabbit boasts a deep and legitimately compelling whodunit story. It's inventive and creative and somehow manages to stand the test of time, despite its strange combination of mediums. Rain Man, on the other hand, suffers from some of the same problems as Forrest Gump in that it creates a caricature of a person with intellectual disabilities. It's still uncomfortable to watch, and though it's funny and thought-provoking on some level, it can't possibly match the sheer zany brilliance of Roger Rabbit. Let me know in the comments below, if you agree with this list. What would you change? If you liked this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and share the video with your friends.